Good morning, everyone. My name is Jake Silveira. Welcome to another episode of Dashboard Dialogues. This morning, we're talking with the fantastic Mr. Michael Wood, the man about town, Tar Heel fanatic, scratch golfer, Dealers Link teammate, and all-around great guy. All right, good morning, Mr. Michael Wood. If you would please go ahead and tell us a little bit about your role at Dealers Link and how you came to find us here.
So at Dealers Link, I cover North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, and a little bit in between. I sell inventory management and marketplace. I've been doing that for about 10 years, several different companies. I came to Dealers Link through a really good friend, Randy Roberts, who I worked with in the past, and just extremely excited to be with a company that is just growing by leaps and bounds. And I love the fact that we are working with our dealers. Any dealer can pick up the phone and call anyone within our company, whether it be support, the VP of sales, or even to the owner. It's really nice after coming from several large companies that you're only known by an actual number instead of a true friend and client.
Sure, absolutely. No, and that's actually a really good thing there because we are a small company and we are able to really communicate with our dealers in a more efficient way than I think obviously some of our competitors and the larger organizations do. So that's really good for sure. Um, one of the things that we like to start with, and before we really get into the main topics of our podcast today, is we like to talk about your first vehicle. So if you would please go ahead and share a little bit about this beast that you shared with us earlier.
Well, it's really funny. So when your family is in the actual car business, you don't really fall in love with any one car because that
Right.
tends to change frequently.
Yeah, sure.
But my first car was a 1985 Dodge Charger Shelby Edition, which was kind of ironic since I live in Shelby, North Carolina, and I went to Shelby High School. So back then we were building wrecks, and the car had about 1,500 miles on it. Looked like a train hit it in the back. So my dad bought it for me. His body shop took it, put a top and tail on it, basically cut it in half. Great car. Drove it for about 6 or 8 months, and then I moved on down the road.
All
But
right.
a lot of fun driving that car back in the day.
I mean, it certainly looked like a fun car to drive for sure. So good. Um, as far as your career in the auto industry, I know you said you've been selling inventory management for about 10 years. What do you enjoy the most about what you've been doing and what has been the most challenging for you?
So being in the car business all my life, my father would go up to DC and Maryland. He had a big transporter coming back and forth every day, bringing cars back. We'd run them through the shop, clean them up, paint whatever needed painted, and he would wholesale them all throughout the Southeast. So that was my start. After that, as a kid, I worked on a lot, washing cars, working in the body shop. Went off to college. I thought, man, I'll never get back in the car business. I'm so glad to go to college. Got out of college and I worked handling auto claims for about 4 or 5 years, which was really good to learn that. Got back into the business with my parents, ended up doing that for years, got into a franchise store as a used car manager, then left there and I was general manager of a 5 store buy here, pay here group,
Okay.
which really completed my PhD in the car business, I thought. So when I was at the Ford store, I used another inventory management product and did really well with it. And during '08, when times weren't that great, and that's what led me to go to work for that company and got me into software sales.
Beautiful.
What I like about selling inventory management is I get to spend a lot of time in dealerships. I get to keep up with trends as far as what's happening in the business. And it's just nice to still be in the car business. I mean, I'm technically not in the car business, but over the last 10 years, I've got to learn every aspect of it, processes and products that are really good, and some products that are not so good.
Sure, absolutely. And that's one thing I can, attest to as far as your knowledge, your just your acumen in the business, and your overall willingness to really help anybody out that's in the company, whether it's a salesperson or one of our consultants. You're one of the guys that's definitely got that information that we could all use. So that's good. And kind of building off of that a little bit, with all that experience that you have, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is advice for younger people wanting to get into the business, or for those who are wanting a career shift. There's a lot of people who are currently selling other products, but they think cars might be better for them, or they're in a different type of industry and they might want a little bit of a change. So, what advice would you give to somebody wanting to get into the car business today?
Well, for the younger person that's really looking to just get started, just get your foot in the door. It doesn't matter if you're sweeping floors, selling cars, a lot errand guy. Just get in the door and learn every possible role in that dealership you can. That's key to moving forward. And for us older guys, if you are not doing well in your current role, there is more money in the car business right now than ever. I mean, I've had several friends that they've gone from other sales roles and I've gotten them jobs in stores. And I mean, it's a great opportunity to work with people and really make some good money. That's the great thing about the car business. People will always need a car or they'll always need to get it serviced.
You're absolutely right about that, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of money right now to be made in the car business, and for those people looking to get into the business, looking at becoming the jack of all trades, master of none. There's more to that saying. Do you know what the rest of that saying is?
I do not.
No. So,
Enlighten me a little.
jack of all trades, master of none is better than being a master of one. Essentially, is kind of the way that goes, and I think that's perfect. If you are a jack of all trades, you learn everything from lot porting to sales to the service side, everything else in between F and I on the backside there. It definitely does help you out for sure. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
no doubt. I mean, I have done it all in the store. I've done F and I, used car manager, general manager. I've gone in on Saturdays and put wheels and tires back on a car so we could sell it. And the thing I always taught my people that worked for me is I'll never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And that's true wherever I've worked, whether it be Dealers Link or in the car business.
Absolutely, and that's definitely a great philosophy to have around work and just being a good teammate for sure. So definitely happy to be working with you for sure. I think it's been 4 or 5 years now, give or take.
Almost four,
Almost
yeah.
four
It
years.
seems like a year. It's really gone by quickly.
It has, hasn't it? It definitely has, especially with
It
COVID.
has.
COVID definitely presented some challenges for us all the way around, and that brings me to the next topic. We've obviously seen some crazy scenarios going on: chip shortages, labor shortages, everything in between. We've got the war in Ukraine going on right now, inflation, a looming recession. What advice do you have for the dealer community, especially Dealers Link members and members that are thinking about switching their current inventory management service to navigate through this challenging time?
I mean, the easiest way to move forward is look at the past. I mean, I'm 53, but my dad was in the car business during the 70s. I can remember when we'd be in Maryland buying cars, we'd have to take multiple tags because you could only get gas one day with the odd tag number, the other day with the even tag number. Interest rates were 15% for good credit. I mean, it was a horrible time. But
Sure.
guess what? People still did business during that. At when I was at the Ford store through '07, 08, and 09, I mean, dealerships were shuttering their doors and we thrived. We focused on our core inventory of what we did really well with. Our salespeople knew how to sell it. I knew how to buy it. Our service people knew how to work on it. And we did just a really good job selling cars. And it really boils down to everyone's going to have a car. I mean, you're not going to be able to get around without a car.
Sure.
Or if you're going to keep the car you have, you got to keep it on the road, so they're going to have to get it serviced. And everybody needs that car guy that they trust and they can reach out to. And if dealerships will look at that as, hey, I'm going to be your car guy for anything you need, I'm here to help you, and they've got a really good process within their store. It's easy to maintain or even do better in a downturn time of the car business.
Sure, sure. Kind of along those lines as well. What we're seeing is higher vehicle prices. Obviously, valuations on pre-owned and wholesale inventory is definitely up on certain segments. Some of them are starting to come down right now. But what would the advice be to dealers to help them delight their customers or continue to go that extra mile when prices are higher, and so sticker shock is a very real possibility at this point? What advice would you give to a dealer to continue that process?
Well, I think we've already seen it, and this has been a trend. When I first got into the franchise side of the business, any car over 100,000 miles, we'd never keep it. And now I go in the stores and I see cars with 170, 180,000 miles sitting on the front row of a franchise dealership.
Mm-hmm.
So why trade for a car that and just get rid of it when you can run it through service and make sure it is a very reliable car and offer your customers a more range of price ranges that they can choose from. You know, everything's gone up. Food, gas, it's expensive to exist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you just need to make sure you're offering a really quality product. They're not going to buy it and 3 months down the road have to spend a ton of money on it. So it just goes back to the basics. You know, only sell those cars that you've processed properly and are of high quality.
Sure.
And you're going to put a customer in a good car that hopefully nothing is going to come up in the near future that's going to really hurt them in the pocketbook.
Sure, absolutely. And just speaking of that, it brings me back to a situation I ran into a few weeks ago. I was actually on site with a dealer doing some in person training with him, and he took a phone call from a customer that he had literally sold a vehicle to, I think, 2 or 3 days before. And she was kind of on the fence of whether or not she wanted to keep it. And she's like, "What would you give me if I, brought the vehicle back?" And turns out, obviously she'd gotten in an accident with the vehicle the very next day after buying it. So dealer was like, "Yeah, I mean, we can give you this value, but there's a $2,000 hit for every accident that is on the vehicle." And she wasn't happy with that response whatsoever, but the dealer did a very good job managing that objection, managing the situation, and ultimately the customer ended the phone call in a very positive place. So, yeah, I think continuing to go above and beyond for customers is still key. I think, especially with prices being so high and valuations and just the used car market in general, still being that advocate for the customer, even though you're trying to make a profit, is definitely a key thing. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Well, one thing I learned from the whole buy here, pay here industry, our goal was we had to keep them in the car for X number of months to,
Sure.
based on your cash in deal and all those parameters.
Yeah.
But, they would bring a car back 6 months down the road that have an issue. A lot of times we would take care of that on goodwill, or we would actually fix that for them and just add it into their payment or come up with a new payment plan for them.
Sure.
So on the franchise side, I think you might have to have a little more personal, relationship with your customer. And, if you've sold them a car and at the time they bought it, that monthly payment fit really well in their budget, and now it doesn't. If something comes up, I think maybe you do offer them something like that, but whether it be goodwill or just work out some payment arrangements to
Sure.
keep them happy and keep them in the car. Because guess what they're going to do when they get in a better situation? They're going to come back and buy that car from you because you're their car guy. You're the one that's helped them.
Right. You're that hero. Exactly. And that's one of the big things, is being that person that a customer can rely on. It's huge. If anybody can go into a dealership and buy a car, and you can get sold a car, no problem. But creating that personal relationship, that goodwill, as you mentioned, that good faith, like those are the things that I think really do help repeat business, referrals, all of that good stuff. So, very good stuff there. As we close the show out, what are you looking forward to most this summer, professionally and personally? And I'm going to make this a little more difficult on you. You cannot use golf, Michael. You can't use golf.
No. Well, man, that'll be tough without some golf thrown. I'll try to come up with some. So I have a daughter that's 20. She's at home for the month of June.
Okay.
Looking forward to spending some time with her. She's been home for about 3 weeks. She is leaving July 1st, going to study in Innsbruck, Austria.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a little nervous about that. She's going to be there 6 weeks. She's excited. I'm not too excited. So I guess on a personal level, I'm just praying that she comes home safe this summer.
Sure.
Work-wise, I've got a lot of conventions to go to and some really nice places, such as Sea Island. At the Cloisters will be really nice. And I love meeting with those dealers because you get to hang out by the pool, have a couple beverages, play a little golf. And it really, I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years. And when we go to those functions, it's just a great way to connect without trying to sell them something and get to know them personally. And that's probably what I'm looking forward to most this summer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as we saw during the NADA of 2022, dealer turnout was much, much higher than it had been the previous year with the digital version, and dealer spirits were definitely up. So I think a lot of people are getting more and more ready to mingle and have that personal connection as opposed to doing it through a computer or a phone screen like we have been doing for the last 2 years. So that's great. By all means, I wish you the very best of luck. I wish your daughter the very best of luck out in Austria, and that she does come home very safe to you and with a whole lot more knowledge that she can use in her life moving forward. So, Michael Wood, thank you again very much for your time today, and good luck to you for the rest of the year.
Well, Jake, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
You too.
All right, take care.
Thank you for joining us today for another great episode of Dashboard Dialogues. You can follow and listen to Dashboard Dialogues on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also, remember to follow our socials on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.